The Omnitrix sparked with emerald lightning as Ben10 crashed through dimensions, reality tearing like fabric around him. One moment he'd been grappling with Vilgax above Bellwood. The next, nothing but green fire and the sensation of falling through infinite darkness. He hit solid ground hard, Georgia red clay cushioning his impact as trees spun overhead. The forest was silent in a way that made his skin crawl. No birds, no insects, just humid southern air thick enough to choke on, and the distant sound of something shuffling through underbrush. Okay, that was new, Ben groaned, pushing himself up and checking the Omnitrix. The faceplate glowed steady green. Master control still active, all systems nominal. But the dimensional locator scrolled through coordinates that made no sense, finding nothing that resembled his home reality. So, of course, just once I'd like to land somewhere with a working phone. The shuffling grew louder. Ben turned as three figures stumbled between the trees. Humans, he thought, until he saw their faces. Gray skin, milky eyes, jaws working mindlessly as they lurched toward him with outstretched arms. The smell hit him next, death and rot so thick he gagged. "Whoa, hey, you guys okay?" Ben backed up, raising his hands. The closest one, a woman in shredded business clothes, reached for him with broken fingers, releasing a wet, gurgling sound that definitely wasn't speech. Training kicked in. Ben twisted the Omnitrix dial, felt the familiar surge of transformation, and in a flash of green light became XLR8. The world slowed to a crawl as his kinaceleran speed ramped up. He zipped past the woman, encircling the three figures in microseconds, while his visor-covered eyes analyzed them. No heartbeat, no breathing. Moving despite catastrophic injuries, the man had half his throat missing. The kid couldn't be more than 12 with chunks torn from his arm. But they kept coming, kept reaching, kept making those horrible sounds. What the hell happened here? Ben muttered, reverting to human form several yards away. He'd fought zombies before, Ghost Freak's minions, Zizkyre's thralls, but those were magic or alien tech. These felt different, wrong in a deeply mundane way. The trio stumbled toward him with single-minded hunger. Ben grimaced and went humongosaur, the 12-foot-tall dinosaurian alien's bulk, making the ground shudder. One casual swipe sent all three flying into trees with lethal force. They didn't get up. Sorry, Ben said quietly, shrinking back to human. He'd killed before in self-defense, but something about this felt worse. They'd been people once. He spent the next hour scouting as XLR8, zipping through the Georgia woods at speeds that turned the forest into a green blur. What he found made his stomach sink. Abandoned cars clogging highways, burnt buildings, bodies everywhere. Some moving, most not. And in the distance, rising above the tree line, a prison complex surrounded by fences and guard towers. People. He could see them moving behind the fences, living people with weapons and purpose. Smoke rose from their courtyard, cooking fires, not destruction. Ben landed on a hill overlooking the facility, returning to human form. The Omnitrix couldn't find his dimension, but maybe these people could tell him what happened to this world, and if they were in trouble. He thought of Gwen and Kevin back home, probably fighting Vilgax without him. His grandfather would be organizing search parties, but he was here now, and those people down there were alive in a world that clearly wanted them dead. "Guess I'm not getting home right away," Ben said, checking the Omnitrix one more time. Master Control hummed with ready power. Every alien in the catalog, all the ultimate forms, unlimited time. Whatever apocalypse had claimed this Earth, at least he had the tools to help. He started down the hill toward the prison, ready to get answers, and maybe, just maybe, be a hero in a world that looked like it needed one desperately. The fence rattled as Ben approached, and immediately 3 rifle barrels swung toward him through the chain link. A man with a sheriff's deputy uniform and the hardest eyes Ben had ever seen stepped forward, revolver aimed center mass. "Stop right there," the man ordered. "Hands where I can see them." Ben raised his hand slowly. Behind the fence, he counted at least a dozen people. Men, women, a few kids watching from the prison courtyard. They all looked exhausted, wary, like they'd forgotten what trust felt like. "I'm not infected," Ben called out. "Just looking for help. Information, really? Everyone's looking for something." A crossbow-wielding man with a sleeveless shirt moved to flank him, bolt aimed at Ben's head. "Don't make you special." Rick, a woman with a sword strapped to her back, said quietly. "Toy, he's just a kid." The sheriff, Rick, didn't lower his weapon. "Kids get bit same as anyone. How'd you survive out there alone? Where's your group?" "Don't have one, Ben hesitated. "How did you explain dimensional travel to people fighting zombies?" "I just got here. Woke up in the woods. I know this sounds crazy, but I'm not from around here. Like, really not from around here." "Chinese kid with an American accent," the crossbow man muttered. "You military? CDC? One of them scientist types?" "Daryl," Rick warned, then focused back on Ben. "You got bit? Scratched? Anyone travel with you who died recently?" "No, nothing like that." "Look, I can prove I'm not a threat." Ben lowered one hand toward the Omnitrix, every weapon cocked simultaneously. "Don't move," Rick barked. "It's just a watch." Ben froze. "I'm trying to help." There were these things, dead people walking around. I took care of 3 of them in the woods. I can help you with more. An older man with white hair leaned over the catwalk. 3 walkers? By yourself? What did you use, son? Don't see any weapons on you." Ben glanced at the Omnitrix. Master control meant instant transformation, no theatrics necessary, but these people needed to see what he could do, needed to understand. "Just don't shoot. Please." He slammed his palm down on the device. Green light erupted across the prison yard, and in a flash, Ben became Wild Mutt, the orange, eyeless, canine alien standing on all 4s, with quills rippling down his back. Enhanced hearing picked up gasps, a woman screaming, guns clicking to fire. Ben roared, then shifted again. 4 arms materialized, the massive Tetramond towering over the fence at 11 feet tall. 4 muscular arms flexed as Ben's voice rumbled from the red-skinned alien's throat. "I can be lots of things," he said, then transformed again. Jet tray, hovering above the ground with neuroshock-generating tail fins. "I'm not here to hurt anyone. Just need to understand what happened to this world." Rick's gun wavered. Daryl's crossbow dropped slightly. The entire group stared in silence until Ben flashed back to human form, breathing hard from the rapid switches. "What the hell are you?" Daryl whispered. "Ben10. And this," he tapped the Omnitrix, "lets me turn into different aliens. I've got dozens of them, maybe more. Some can fly, some are strong, some are smart. I can help you survive this." Rick and the woman with the sword exchanged looks. She nodded slightly, hand still on her weapon. "Michonne thinks you're telling the truth," Rick said slowly. "That don't mean we trust you. Could be some trick, some new evolution of walkers, government experiment gone wrong. I'm not a walker. I'm trying to help. Everyone tries to help." Rick's expression darkened. "Then they want something. Food, guns, control. What do you want, Ben?" Ben thought about home, about the Omnitrix's failure to locate his dimension, about being stranded in an apocalypse. He could force his way in, could become Humongosaur and tear the fence down, but these people had already lost too much. They didn't need another threat. "Information," Ben said honestly. how this happened, how long it's been, if there's anything left out there worth saving. And maybe I can help you while I figure out how to get home. Rick studied him for a long moment, then lowered his revolver. Glenn, Maggie, open the gate. But he comes in under watch. Anyone touches that watch without permission, we put him down. Clear? Clear. Ben agreed. The gate scraped open, and Ben walked into the prison courtyard, where a group of survivors watched him like he was either salvation or damnation. He couldn't tell which they were hoping for. Rick holstered his weapon but kept his hand near it. Welcome to the end of the world, kid. Hope you're ready for what comes next. They gave Ben a cell block corner and 20 questions. Rick sat across from him while Michonne stood guard, her katana never far from reach. Daryl leaned against the bars, crossbow across his lap. Started about 8 months ago, Rick explained. Nobody knows exactly how. People got sick, died, came back. Bites spread it, but everyone's already infected. You die, you turn. Don't matter how. Ben absorbed this, mind racing. Everyone? Like a virus in the air? Doctor, we knew said it was bloodborne, airborne, everything. CDC blew itself up before we got real answers. Rick's jaw tightened. World ended fast. Military tried to hold cities. Failed. Government's gone. It's just small groups now, trying to survive. And the ones outside the fence. Walkers, dead people walking. Destroy the brain, they stop. That's it. No cure. I know fixing them. Michonne's voice was flat. We've lost too many people learning that. Ben thought of the 3 he'd killed in the woods. Just reflexes, self-defense. But if they were already dead, already gone? There's more than walkers, though, Daryl added. Living people are worse. We got a problem right now with a guy calls himself the governor. Runs a town called Woodbury like his personal kingdom. Attacked us once already, killed some of ours. He'll be back. Why not just leave? Find somewhere safer? Rick laughed bitterly. Everywhere's dangerous. At least here we got walls, supplies, land for farming. You run, you just die tired. Ben stood, pacing the cell. But I could help. I've got aliens that could clear every walker for miles. I could fly to this Woodbury place, deal with the governor, find other survivors and bring them here. Build something better. Could you now? Rick's tone wasn't a question. Just fix everything with that magic watch. It's not magic, it's don't matter what it is. Rick stood too, getting in Ben's space. You walk in here like some kind of superhero, think you can save the world, but you don't know this world. You don't know what it costs. I've saved my world plenty of times, Ben shot back. Fought aliens, monsters, literal gods. I know about costs. Then you know that power don't mean nothing if people don't trust you. Michonne stepped forward. We've seen leaders promise safety, use people, get them killed. How do we know you're different? Ben wanted to argue, to list his accomplishments, prove himself. But he saw it in their eyes. They'd been betrayed before, probably multiple times. You don't, he admitted. Not yet. But let me try. Let me do something useful. Rick considered this. You said you can get smart with that watch? Brainstorm. Increases my IQ massively. Why? Because maybe before you start playing hero, you help us understand what we're fighting. Herschel's got some medical knowledge, but we never got real answers about the walkers. How they work, why they keep moving, if there's any way to stop it spreading. Ben nodded slowly. I can do that. Just need one of them to study. An hour later, they had a walker chained in the prison's isolation block, a former guard, judging by the uniform. It snarled and lunged against the restraints, teeth snapping at empty air. Ben stood outside the cell as Brainstorm, his massive crab-like cranium pulsing with electrical thought. Oh, fascinating and horrible, Brainstorm said, his enhanced intelligence analyzing every detail. Cardiovascular system non-functional, yet muscular tissue maintains minimal animation. The virus, or prion more likely, targets the brainstem, keeps basic motor functions while destroying higher cognition. English, Daryl demanded. It eats the brain except the part that makes you walk and bite. Everything that made this person human is gone. Just hunger and movement left. Brainstorm's electrodes crackled. The infection is elegant in its simplicity. It's everywhere, in the air, water, dormant in every living human. Death triggers activation. Bites just accelerate the process with direct exposure to active virus. Can you cure it? Rick asked. Brainstorm's silence spoke volumes. The living? Perhaps. With months of research and laboratory equipment I don't have. The dead? No. They're gone. Reanimated tissue isn't alive in any meaningful sense. You can't cure death. Ben transformed back, the weight of that conclusion settling on him. He'd faced galactic threats, reality-ending crises, but this was different. This was small, human, and utterly hopeless. So we just survive, he said quietly. Now you're learning. Rick put a hand on his shoulder. World don't need saving, Ben. It's already gone. We just need to keep our people alive one more day. Think your aliens can help with that? Ben looked at the walker, then at the survivors watching him through the doorway. Scared people in a dead world, looking at him like he might be an answer to prayers they'd stopped saying. Yeah, he said. I can help with that. Dawn broke over the prison with the moans of the dead. A herd had gathered overnight, maybe 200 walkers pressing against the outer fence, drawn by noise or scent or whatever passed for instinct in rotting brains. We can thin them out, Rick said, checking his revolver's ammunition. Take shifts on the towers, headshots only. Save ammo where we can. Or, Ben said, I handle it in about 5 minutes. Rick's expression showed exactly what he thought of that idea, but he didn't stop Ben from walking to the gate. Daryl followed, crossbow ready. Half the prison population gathered to watch. Ben slammed the Omnitrix dial. Green light consumed him as his body expanded, muscles bulking impossibly large. But he didn't stop at Humungosaur. He triggered the evolutionary function, and the transformation continued. Ultimate Humungosaur stood 20 feet tall, biometallic armor plating covering natural hide, missile launchers growing from his shoulders. Holy shit, Glenn breathed from the tower. Ben, Ultimate Humungosaur, stepped through the gate. The walkers immediately turned toward him, a shuffling tide of death. He roared, and the sound physically staggered the front ranks. Then he went to work. Each punch caved in skulls like overripe fruit. He moved through the herd like a threshing machine, clawed hands pulverizing everything in reach. When a cluster bunched too tight, shoulder-mounted biomissiles launched with organic precision, detonating in controlled bursts that cleared dozens at once. It wasn't a fight. It was extermination. 3 minutes later, Ben stood in a field of truly dead corpses, so not a single walker left moving within 200 yards. He transformed back to human, barely winded. The prison yard was silent. That, Maggie finally said, was the most incredible thing I've ever seen. Cheers erupted. People Ben barely knew rushed forward, thanking him, touching his shoulder like he was some kind of saint. A kid named Carl looked at him with pure hero worship. Rick didn't cheer. He walked out to where Ben stood, surveying the carnage. That was efficient, Rick said carefully. Told you I could help. You did. Question is what happens when you're not here. Rick gestured to the celebrating crowd. They're already thinking you can solve every problem. What happens when the next herd comes and you're scouting, or sleeping, or gone? Ben frowned. I'm not going anywhere. You said you want to get home eventually, and even if you stay, you can't be everywhere at once. Rick's voice dropped. We survived this long because we learned to fight, to be careful, to work together. You do everything for us. We forget how to do it ourselves. That gets people killed. I'm trying to keep people alive. I know. But there's a difference between helping and making people dependent. Rick looked back at the prison. They're looking at you like you're the answer. Like they can relax now because the superhero's here. That kind of thinking is dangerous. Ben wanted to argue, but movement in the tree line caught his attention. Just a flash, sunlight on glass, binoculars maybe, someone watching. We're not alone, Ben said quietly. Rick followed his gaze, hand moving to his weapon. So how long? Just noticed. Could be nothing. Could be the governor's people. Rick whistled sharply. Daryl appeared on the wall. We got eyes in the woods, southwest tree line. Daryl raised his crossbow, peering through the scope. Gone now. But yeah, someone was there. Inside the prison, the celebration continued. People already talking about Ben clearing the whole area, making it safe forever. They didn't know they'd just shown the governor exactly what kind of weapon was behind these walls. Rick met Ben's eyes. You wanted to help. Now someone dangerous knows about you, about what you can do. Let them come. I can handle it. That's what I'm afraid of. Rick started back toward the gate. You can handle walkers easy. But people? They don't just charge at you mindless. They think. They plan. They use what you care about against you. Ben watched the tree line where the spy had been. In his universe, villains announced themselves, fought in the open. But this world had different rules. Here, the monsters wore human faces and fought dirty. The Omnitrix hummed on his wrist, ready to transform into anything he needed. Ultimate forms, impossible aliens, godlike power. But for the first time since arriving, Ben wondered if power would be enough. In the woods, a man with an eye patch lowered his binoculars and smiled. The governor poured whiskey into 3 glasses, his one good eye studying the men before him. Martinez and Schumpert had returned from their scouting mission with a story that should have been impossible. Tell me again, the governor said softly. Exactly what you saw. Martinez shifted uncomfortably. A kid, maybe 16. He changed into something big, like a dinosaur but worse. Metal parts on it. Took out 200 walkers in minutes. Missiles came out of its shoulders, Schumpert added. Then it turned back into the kid. Just a flash of green light, and he was human again. The governor sipped his drink. Woodbury had 73 residents, enough ammunition for maybe 2 serious fights, and a tenuous hold on civilization. The prison group had walls, farmland, and now, apparently, a living weapon. This changes things, he said finally. We can't take the prison with him there. Could we negotiate? Martinez suggested. Offer an alliance? With Rick Grimes, the man who killed my soldiers? The governor's voice hardened. No. We need that prison. Need the supplies, the space. And we need that boy under our control or dead. He moved to the window, looking out at Woodbury's false peace. His people trusted him to keep them safe, to make the hard choices. Sometimes that meant doing terrible things. Find out everything you can about him. Weaknesses, limits, what he cares about. Everyone has pressure points. The governor turned back. We'll use them. That night, Ben went ghost. Big chill phased through the prison walls, intangible and invisible in the darkness. The moth-like alien's wings carried him silently over the Georgia countryside, following the directions Rick had provided. Woodbury appeared peaceful from above. Walls, generators, actual streetlights. It looked almost normal, like the apocalypse had missed this one town. But Ben had learned that appearances meant nothing in this world. He phased through a building's roof, becoming visible just long enough to read signs and documents. An infirmary, well stocked. An armory with serious firepower. Residential areas that seemed comfortable, almost luxurious compared to the prison. Then he found the arena. Wooden bleachers surrounded a dirt pit where chains lay scattered and dark stains marked the ground. Ben turned tangible long enough to pick up a poster. Live Entertainment. Friday night fights. His blood ran cold when he understood. They were making walkers fight for entertainment. He kept searching, phasing through walls until he reached what had to be the governor's apartment. The man himself sat at a desk, reviewing maps of the prison, marking guard positions and weak points, planning an attack. Ben floated closer, reading over his shoulder. The governor had detailed intelligence, tower positions, how many fighters, supply estimates, and in the margin, circled repeatedly. The boy. Neutralize first. A photograph lay on the desk. A little girl, maybe 10, smiling at the camera. But there was something wrong with her eyes in the next photo. Milky, dead. The governor kept a walker child. Ben phased back through the wall, needing air, needing to process. This wasn't just territorial dispute. The governor was planning massacre, and he'd do anything to win. And he's got 40, maybe 50 people who can fight, Ben reported to Rick's counsel. Heavy weapons, organized patrols, and he's planning to hit us soon. I saw the maps. We could strike first, Daryl said. Take the fight to him before he's ready. With what? Herschel countered. We've got children here, elderly. We can't abandon them to assault Woodbury. Rick looked at Ben. You could do it alone. Fly in, take out the governor, end this. Ben had been thinking the same thing. Ultimate Humongosaur could tear through Woodbury's defenses in seconds. The governor would be dead before he knew what hit him. He's got innocent people there, Ben said slowly. I saw families, kids. If I go in like that, people get hurt. People who aren't part of this. They'll attack us anyway, Maggie argued. Everyone in Woodbury benefits from the governor's raids. They're not innocent. They might not know what he does, Ben countered. Might think he's protecting them, same as we protect our people. Michonne leaned forward. So, what do you suggest? We wait for him to attack. Ben thought about the arena, the walker fights, the maps marked with kill zones. The governor wasn't going to stop. But rushing in with overwhelming force made Ben no better than the villains he'd fought back home, the ones who caused collateral damage and justified it later. We fortify, Ben said finally. I help make this place defensible. When he comes, we're ready. We fight on our terms, protect our people. Maybe he backs down when he sees what we can do. And if he doesn't? Rick asked. Ben met his eyes. Then I do what I have to. But I'm not killing civilians in their sleep just because their leader's a monster. Rick nodded slowly. All right. We prepare for war. Ben, you're on defense. Make this prison into a fortress. As the meeting broke up, Ben couldn't shake the image of that photograph, the governor's walker daughter. A man who couldn't let go of the dead was dangerous in ways even the Omnitrix couldn't predict. The decision came when the governor took Michonne and Herschel. They'd gone on a supply run, experienced fighters who knew the risks. But the governor's men had been waiting, and now a messenger stood at the prison gate with a simple demand. Surrender the prison and the shapeshifter, or the hostages die. It's a trap, Rick said, staring at the Polaroid of Michonne and Herschel bound in Woodbury's arena. He wants you out in the open. Then I go in quiet. Ben's voice was cold. Get them out before he knows I'm there. Daryl grabbed his crossbow. Not alone. We go together, small team, in and out. They moved at dusk. Ben, Rick, Daryl, and Glenn. Ben flew them in as Jet Ray, the manta ray alien carrying them beneath Woodbury's radar. He set them down outside the walls, then went big chill, phasing through to unlock the gates from inside. Nam, stick to the plan, Rick whispered as they entered. Find the hostages, extract, no unnecessary casualties. The plan died when the governor's voice crackled over loudspeakers. "Welcome, Ben10. I've been expecting you." Floodlights blazed. Armed men poured from buildings, at least 30 guns trained on their position. The governor stood on a platform above the arena, Michonne and Herschel on their knees beside him, guns to their heads. "You're fast, but are you faster than bullets?" The governor smiled. "I don't think so. So here's what happens. You surrender. Let my scientists study that watch, and your friends live. Fight back, and I execute them both." Ben's hand moved to the Omnitrix. He could go XLR-8, grab the hostages before anyone could blink. But there were too many guns, too many angles. Someone would get a shot off. "Don't," Rick warned. "He's bluffing." "I never bluff." The governor nodded to his men. "Fire a warning shot." A rifle cracked. Herschel screamed as a bullet tore through his leg. Ben slammed the Omnitrix dial. Ultimate Humongosaur erupted in the town square, 20 feet of armored rage. Bio-missiles launched simultaneously, hitting the platform's supports. The governor and his prisoners tumbled as the structure collapsed. Then Ben moved. He crashed through buildings like tissue paper, scattering gunmen with sweeping arms. When they opened fire, bullets sparked off his metallic hide. He grabbed 2 shooters, hurled them into walls hard enough to break bones, but not kill. Probably. "Fall back!" someone screamed. "Get the heavy weapons!" An RPG streaked toward him. Ben transformed mid-combat. Jet ray now. The missile passing harmlessly through empty space as he flew high. He dove, becoming 4 arms before impact. 4 fists hammering into the RPG team. Men flew, bones cracked. Ben tried to pull his punches, but adrenaline and fury made precision impossible. "Ben, the hostages!" Glenn's voice cut through the chaos. He transformed to XLR-8, blurring across the compound. Michonne was cutting herself free with a hidden blade, Herschel clutching his bleeding leg. Ben scooped them both up and ran, the world freezing around him as he moved at supersonic speed. Behind him, Woodbury burned. His missiles had ignited something. Fuel storage, maybe. Flames climbed into the night sky. He found Rick and Daryl pinned down by gunfire. Ultimate Echo materialized, the sonic alien splitting into 50 duplicates that surrounded the shooters. A concentrated blast of sound waves knocked them unconscious without permanent damage. "Where's the governor?" Ben demanded, reforming into one body. "Gone," Rick said. "Slipped away in the chaos." Ben wanted to search, to hunt him down and end this, but Herschel was bleeding out, and more of Woodbury's people were regrouping. He became jet tray again, gathering his team. They flew into the night as Woodbury's residents fought the fires and tended their wounded. Back at the prison, Herschel survived. Barely. Carol dug out the bullet while Ben paced outside the cell block, unable to watch. 17 injured, Rick reported quietly. 3 dead. Woodbury's people, not ours. "I didn't mean," Ben started. "I know, but they're still dead." Rick's expression was unreadable. "You saved Michonne and Herschel. That matters. But there's consequences to using that much power in a populated area." Ben looked at his hands, remembering the impact of throwing men into walls. Had he killed them? He'd been so focused on winning, on saving his people, that he hadn't thought about the cost. "The governor got away," he said. "Yeah. And now he knows you can be baited, that you'll come running when people you care about are threatened." Rick put a hand on Ben's shoulder. That's the weakness he was looking for. Not the watch. You. In the darkness beyond the prison, the governor watched through binoculars, his face illuminated by distant flames. His town was damaged, his people hurt, but he was smiling. He'd learned exactly what he needed to know. The refugees arrived 2 days later. 23 people from Woodbury, scared and desperate, carrying whatever they could salvage. The governor had abandoned them after Ben's attack, taking his loyal soldiers and vanishing into the Georgia wilderness. What remained were families, elderly, people who'd believed they were safe. "We have nowhere else to go," a woman named Karen said at the gate. "Please. We have children." Rick looked at Ben. "Your call. You brought this on them." Ben felt the weight of that responsibility as he opened the gate. These people lost their homes because of him. The least he could do was help. But integration wasn't simple. The prison's resources, already stretched, now had to feed and shelter nearly twice as many people. Tensions flared over cell assignments, food rations, work duties. The Woodbury refugees whispered about the monster who'd destroyed their town. Some of the prison group whispered back that Ben was their savior. "You're like Superman," Carl said one morning, watching Ben stack supply crates as 4 arms. "You can do anything." "Not anything," Ben said, transforming back. "I can't make food appear or fix broken people." "But you saved us from the governor." "Did I?" Ben gestured to the overcrowded courtyard. "He's still out there. And now we've got more mouths to feed and less trust between everyone." Carl's face fell. Ben immediately regretted his harshness, but the kid needed to understand. Power didn't solve everything. That night, a fight broke out between Daryl and one of the Woodbury men over generator fuel. Ben separated them as Humongosaur, his bulk filling the courtyard. Everyone froze. Stop," he rumbled. "We're on the same side." "Are we?" the Woodbury man spat. "You destroyed our home, killed our people. Now you play hero?" Ben shrank back to human, the accusation hitting harder than any punch. "I was saving hostages. You were showing off. Could have snuck in quiet, but you wanted everyone to see how powerful you are." The man's voice shook with grief. "My brother died in that fire. He wasn't a soldier, wasn't fighting. Just wrong place, wrong time." Silence stretched across the yard. Ben opened his mouth, closed it. What could he say? "I'm sorry?" It wouldn't bring the man's brother back. Rick stepped between them. "Everyone's lost people. That don't give us the right to tear each other apart. We work together or we die separate. Those are the only choices." The crowd dispersed slowly, muttering. Ben retreated to his cell, the Omnitrix feeling heavier than usual. Michonne found him an hour later, staring at the alien device. "Beating yourself up won't help," she said. "I killed people who weren't soldiers. Wasn't trying to, but I did." Ben looked up. "Back home, there's always a way to win without casualties. Scan the situation, pick the right alien, save everyone. But here the choices are bad and worse." Michonne sat beside him. "I've killed people. So has Rick, Daryl, most of us. We do it to survive, to protect what's ours. Doesn't make it right. But it's necessary. How do you live with it? You remember why you did it. You saved Herschel and me. That matters." She paused. "But you also need to accept you can't save everyone. Even with all those aliens, you're still one person. You make mistakes. And people die anyway." Ben thought about the 3 deaths, the injured, the refugees now struggling to fit in. He'd acted with good intentions and still caused harm. "The governor's still out there," he said quietly. "Yeah, and he's planning something worse." Michonne's hand moved to her katana. "Men like him don't forget. Don't forgive. He'll come back when we're vulnerable, hit us where it hurts most. Then I'll be ready. That's what I'm afraid of." She stood. "You rush in trying to protect everyone, you leave openings. He'll use that. Use the people you care about against you." After she left, Ben transformed to brainstorm, needing the enhanced intelligence to process everything. The crab-like alien's massive brain calculated scenarios, outcomes, probability matrices. The conclusion was unavoidable. The governor would return, and he'd learned Ben's weakness, emotional attachment, willingness to sacrifice tactical advantage to save lives. Next time, he'd exploit it ruthlessly. And Ben couldn't be everywhere at once, couldn't protect everyone simultaneously. Despite master control, despite unlimited transformations and ultimate forms, he was still fundamentally limited by being one consciousness in one place. Fascinating and terrible paradox, Brainstorm muttered. Godlike power, human limitations. The more I try to save, the more I risk losing. He transformed back, looking out at the prison yard, where two groups, former enemies, tried to coexist under the constant threat of death. This world didn't need a hero who could punch harder or fly faster. It needed something he wasn't sure he could be. The radio on Rick's hip crackled with static. Then a familiar voice, cold and measured. Hello, Rick. Hello, Ben. I hope you're enjoying your victory. Because I'm coming back. And when I do, you'll wish you killed me when you had the chance. The governor's laughter echoed through the prison before the transmission cut out. The governor attacked at dawn with a stolen military tank. Ben was on watch when the engine roar cut through the morning quiet. He transformed to XLR-8, blurring to the fence in time to see the tank's barrel swivel toward the prison walls. "Everyone inside!" he screamed. "Now!" The shell hit before people could move. The outer fence exploded, shrapnel and fire tearing through the courtyard. Ben watched in horror as bodies flew. Karen, the Woodbury refugee who'd begged for sanctuary, gone in an instant. Two others, prison group members, weren't moving. The tank rolled forward. Behind it, the governor's army, 60 men, maybe more, armed and organized. But they weren't advancing. They were fanning out, surrounding the prison. Ben became ultimate humongosaur, rage and desperation fueling the transformation. He'd crush the tank and scatter the army. End this now. "Ben, wait!" Rick's voice cracked over the radio. "He's got Carl and Judith!" Everything stopped. Ben's enhanced vision found them. The governor standing behind the tank, holding Rick's infant daughter. Carl was bound beside him, gun to his head. Maggie and Glenn were there too, along with 5 others from a supply run that should have been safe. "Hello, Ben," the governor called out. "I learned my lesson last time. You can't save everyone at once, can you?" Ben's massive form trembled. One leap and he could reach them, but not before the governor gave orders. Not before triggers were pulled. "Here's the deal," the governor continued. "You surrender that watch. Walk out here unarmed, or I start executing them, starting with the baby." "Don't do it," Carl yelled before a soldier backhanded him. Ben looked at Rick, who stood frozen in the courtyard, his son and daughter held hostage. At Michonne, katana drawn but useless. At Daryl, crossbow aimed at targets he couldn't hit without risking the prisoners. "You have 10 seconds, the governor said. 10. 9. Ben transformed back to human, hands raised. Okay. I'm coming." "No." Rick grabbed his arm. "He'll kill them anyway. You know that." 8. 7. "I can't let him murder children," Ben said. "I won't." 6. 5. Ben started walking toward the gate. Behind him, Rick was screaming orders to fall back, to get the others to safety. The Omnitrix pulsed on Ben's wrist, offering 1,000 solutions that wouldn't work fast enough. 4. 3. He was halfway to the gate when the governor smiled. "Actually, I changed my mind." The gunshot cracked across the prison yard. Ben transformed instantly. XLR-8, moving faster than thought itself. But even at supersonic speed, he couldn't reverse time, couldn't catch the bullet that had already found its mark. Maggie collapsed, blood spreading across her chest. "No deal," the governor said. "Just wanted you to know what helpless feels like." Something inside Ben broke. Ultimate Humongosaur erupted with a roar that shattered windows. Biomissiles launched in every direction, at the tank, at the soldiers, at everything. He didn't aim carefully, didn't calculate collateral damage. He just wanted them dead. The tank exploded. Men screamed. But in the chaos, the governor's soldiers executed their real plan. Fire arrows rained into the prison. Molotovs shattered against buildings. While Ben raged outside the walls, Woodbury's forces set everything inside ablaze. The crops, the supplies, the cell blocks, all burning. By the time Ben realized the trap, it was too late. The governor and his main force retreated, abandoning the cannon fodder. They took the hostages, still alive, leverage for next time. Ben could chase them or save the prison. He chose the prison. Ultimate swamp fire materialized, the plant-based alien absorbing flames and trying to contain the inferno. But there was too much fire, too much smoke. People were scattering in panic, grabbing what they could. "It's over," Rick shouted through the chaos. "We have to go." "I can stop this," Ben insisted, sprouting vines to smother flames. "Look around. Half our people are already gone. Supplies are burning. Walls are breached. We can't defend this anymore." Rick's face was ash-stained, devastated. "We evacuate now, or we die here." Ben wanted to argue, but explosions rocked the prison as ammunition cooked off in the armory fire. The walker herd, drawn by noise, was already shambling through the broken fences. He'd failed. Despite every alien, every ultimate form, every ounce of power, he'd failed. "Transform," Rick ordered. "Get as many people out as you can. Fast transport, multiple trips. Go." Ben became Jet Ray, making runs through smoke and fire, carrying survivors to the highway. 3 trips, 4, 5. But people were scattered in the chaos, hiding in the woods, running in panic. When the prison was finally empty of living humans and full of fire and walkers, Ben landed beside the handful of survivors they'd managed to gather. 30 people out of 53. The rest were dead, captured, or lost. Maggie lay on the ground, Carol desperately trying to stop the bleeding. Herschel worked beside her, but Ben could see it in his eyes. She wouldn't make it. Rick stared at the burning prison, his children taken, his home destroyed. "This is on me," Ben said quietly. Rick didn't answer. He didn't have to. Maggie died at sunrise. Ben sat apart from the group, watching Carol and Herschel grieve. He'd carried her for miles as Jet Ray, searched for medical supplies as XLR-8, even tried using Upgrade to interface with abandoned hospital equipment. Nothing worked. "I'm sorry," he'd said, useless words that changed nothing. Glenn hadn't spoken since. He just stared into the trees, rifle across his lap, broken. The group of 30 had splintered further overnight. Some fled in panic. Others went searching for family. By dawn, only 15 remained on the highway, waiting for Rick to decide their next move. But Rick wasn't talking. His children were still captive, his community destroyed, his people scattered across Georgia with walkers and the governor hunting them. "We can't stay here," Michonne said. "Exposed. No walls. Below on everything." "I can find them," Ben said. "The governor took them northwest. I can track the vehicles, get Carl and Judith back." "And then what?" Daryl snapped. "You swoop in, kill everyone, maybe hit a few more hostages by accident?" The words stung because they were deserved. Ben had let rage control him at the prison, fired missiles without thinking. People died because he'd lost control. "I'll be careful," Ben said quietly. "You don't get careful with that much power." Daryl stood, getting in Ben's face. "You get lucky or you get people killed. We got the second one." Rick finally moved, stepping between them. "Enough. Ben, transform. Something for scouting. Quiet, invisible. Find where he took them. Don't engage." Ben became Big Chill, the relief of having a clear mission steadying him. He phased through the trees, or intangible and silent, following the tire tracks northwest. He found the governor's convoy stopped at an abandoned school 20 miles out. The hostages were locked in a classroom. Carl, Judith, Glenn's sister, and 4 others. Armed guards patrolled outside. The governor sat in the principal's office, cleaning a rifle. Ben wanted to end it. Transform to ultimate humongosaur, tear through the walls, crush the man who'd caused so much pain. But he remembered Maggie bleeding out, remembered the prison burning while he raged. He flew back and reported the location. "We go in smart," Rick said, finally finding his voice. "Small team, quiet extraction. Ben, you get the hostages out. We handle the guards." They moved at dusk. Rick, Daryl, Michonne, and Ben. The others stayed hidden with Herschel. No more splitting the group. Ben went ghost again, phasing through the school's walls to reach the hostages. Carl's eyes widened when Big Chill materialized. "We're getting you out," Ben whispered, transforming to XLR-8. "Hold on." He grabbed Carl and Judith first, blurring out of the school at supersonic speed. 2 trips. 3. The hostages were extracted before the guards even noticed. Then the shooting started. Rick's team had been spotted. Gunfire erupted across the school grounds. Ben transformed to 4 arms, bursting through a wall to help. He grabbed 2 shooters, slammed them together, threw them aside. "The governor's running!" Michonne shouted, chasing a figure toward the tree line. Ben became XLR-8, catching up in seconds. He grabbed the governor, transforming to human as they crashed into the dirt. The Omnitrix glowed green at the man's throat. "Do it!" the governor gasped, bloodied but defiant. "Show them what you really are, a killer, just like me." Ben's hand hovered over the Omnitrix. 1 transformation, 1 second of violence, and this ended. No more attacks, no more hostages, no more deaths. But he saw Maggie's face, Karen's, the Woodbury civilians caught in the crossfire. Killing came easy when you had the power. Too easy. "I'm not like you," Ben said, pulling back. A gunshot cracked. The governor's eye, his remaining eye, exploded in blood and bone. He collapsed, dead before he hit ground. Rick stood behind them, revolver smoking. "I am," Rick said simply. He looked at his son, his daughter safe in Michonne's arms. "I do what needs doing." They left the governor's body for the walkers and returned to the highway. The group reunited. Smaller, damaged, but alive. A Herschel held his son-in-law Glenn while he wept. Carl hugged his father. Judith cried, oblivious to how close she'd come to death. Ben stood apart, processing everything. He'd come to this world with unlimited power, thinking he could save everyone. Instead, he'd learned the hardest lesson. Power wasn't enough. Not against human cruelty, not against impossible choices, not against the simple fact that you couldn't be everywhere at once. "You did good," Rick said, approaching. "Got them back safe. Maggie's still dead. The prison's gone. Half our people are scattered or worse. Yeah, but the other half are alive because you helped." Rick looked at his children. That counts for something. It did. But it also wasn't enough, would never be enough. The group gathered their supplies and started walking. No destination, no plan except survival. Ben flew overhead as Jetere, watching for threats, protecting them the only way he knew how. One moment at a time, one choice at a time, accepting that he couldn't save everyone but trying anyway, because that's what heroes did. Alexandria's gates were the most beautiful thing Ben had seen in weeks. The walled community stood pristine compared to the wasteland outside. Solar panels, running water, actual houses with lawns. A woman named Deanna greeted them cautiously, interviewing each survivor before granting entry. When she got to Ben, she stared at the Omnitrix. "We've heard stories," she said carefully. "A boy who changes into monsters, who destroyed Woodbury and fought the governor. Are those stories true? Ben met her eyes. Some of them. The part where you can help protect this place. Yeah, that part's true. They were granted entry, assigned houses, given the first hot showers and real beds in months. The Alexandria residents watched Ben like he was either savior or threat, whispering behind hands as he walked past. Carl found him that evening on the porch. They think you're going to save them, like you're Captain America or something. I'm not, Ben said. I'm just a kid with a watch. A watch that turns you into basically anything. Carl sat beside him. That's more than anyone else here has. Ben thought about Maggie's grave, the prison burning, all the people he couldn't save despite that power. It's not as much as you think. Over the next few days, Ben tried to settle in. He cleared walkers from the perimeter as Humongosaur, reinforced the walls as Diamond Head, scouted the surrounding area as Jetray. Useful work that kept him busy and the community safer. But Alexandria had been sheltered. Soft. They didn't understand what the world had become outside their walls, and they looked at Ben like he could keep them that way forever. Don't, Rick warned when Ben mentioned it. Don't take that responsibility. We learned what happens when you try. I'm just helping. You're becoming what they worship. That's dangerous for everyone. Ben knew he was right. But what else could he do? Stand by and watch people die when he had the power to prevent it. Aaron, Alexandria's recruiter, approached him during wall duty. There's something you should know. We've been hearing about a group west of here. They call themselves saviors, extort communities for supplies, kill anyone who resists. How big? Big. And organized. They've got a leader. Calls himself Negan. Aaron's expression darkened. We've stayed off their radar so far, but with you here, word spreads fast about a shapeshifter. They might come looking. Ben transformed to brainstorm and processing the implications. You're saying I'm a target, that I put Alexandria at risk just by being here. I'm saying the world noticed you, and not all of it is friendly. That night, Ben sat on Alexandria's wall, watching the darkness beyond. Somewhere out there were other survivors, other communities, other threats. The governor was dead, but men like him existed everywhere in this world. The Omnitrix still couldn't locate his home dimension. Maybe it never would. Maybe he was stuck here, in this dead world, trying to protect people who saw him as either weapon or savior when he was just a scared kid trying to do right. Rick joined him on the wall. Thinking about leaving? Thinking about staying, whether that's the right call. For what it's worth, we need you. Not because of the watch, because you still believe people are worth saving. That's rarer than you think. Rick paused. But you need to accept something. This world's broken. You can't fix it. Just make it a little less terrible for the people around you. Ben looked at Alexandria's lights, at families eating dinner in safe houses, at children who still had a chance at something resembling childhood. He'd lost the prison, lost people he'd tried to save, learned that power had limits he never imagined. But he'd also helped these people survive, had given them a chance to reach safety. That counted for something. I'm staying, Ben said, at least until I figure out how to get home. And if I can't. He trailed off, watching a walker shuffle past in the darkness. Then I guess this is home now. Rick nodded. Welcome to Alexandria. Hi, Ben. Try not to destroy this one. They shared a tired laugh. In the distance, something moved through the trees. Scouts, maybe, or just walkers. Ben would check in the morning, deal with whatever threats emerged, protect what he could. The Omnitrix hummed softly on his wrist, ready for whatever came next. Ultimate forms, impossible aliens, godlike transformations. All tools he'd learned to use more carefully, more thoughtfully. This world had taught him that being a hero wasn't about having the biggest gun or the strongest punch. It was about making hard choices, living with consequences, and showing up every day to protect people even when you knew you'd fail some of them. Ben10 had saved the universe before, stopped warlords, defeated gods, prevented apocalypses. But surviving the walking dead? That would be his hardest mission yet. Somewhere in the darkness, unseen eyes watched Alexandria's walls. A man with a baseball bat wrapped in barbed wire smiled, hearing stories of a boy who could become monsters. The saviors were coming, and they'd want to meet Ben10 very soon. Ben had entered this world thinking power would be enough. The Omnitrix gave him strength, speed, intelligence, everything he needed to be a hero. But the walking dead taught him different lessons. He couldn't save everyone, couldn't be everywhere, couldn't stop human cruelty with alien transformations alone. The prison had fallen despite his abilities. Maggie had died in his arms. The governor had exploited his heroism against him, but he'd also helped these people survive, had given them a chance when they had none, cleared paths through the dead, fought battles they couldn't win alone, and learned to work with them instead of above them. Alexandria represented something fragile, hope in a hopeless world. Ben would protect it, not as a god among mortals, but as one more survivor trying to make tomorrow possible. The Omnitrix still hummed with ultimate power, but Ben had learned that how you used power mattered more than having it. Rick's group had taught him that. So had their losses. The saviors would come. Negan would challenge everything Ben believed about mercy and justice. Other threats lurked in the ruins of civilization. And someday, maybe, he'd find a way home. But until then, Ben10 would stand watch on Alexandria's walls, transform when needed, and fight to give these people one more day of life in a world of death. Because that's what heroes did, not because they could save everyone, but because they tried anyway. May the Force be with you. More stories await.